Sabio and App Science approaches both media execution and analytics from a mobile mindset. And our belief is consumers are more, from a mobile mindset, and consumers are actually the data that's flowing through it from a privacy compliant way is actually more telling about consumer behavior and thinking and execution than simply running insights on TV and linear. They really don't give you as much information on what is mindset. An example of that is a consumer who loads a wedding app is most likely in the next few months going to load some other app, whether it is a new apartment app, whether it's a new car app. There's going to be different changes in behavior. And so our view, even before the pandemic, our view has always been, you are what you app. And the app is at the center of the universe. And whether it's an app on TV or an app on mobile, it's an app. And that's why we believed in app science and not boiling the ocean with desktop, mobile web, and apps. We just focus in on apps specifically.
Do you believe that one's mobile phone gives you far greater insights into the living room, I guess, into the household than any other forms of data out there?
Yes, we have a big believer in no cookies and no panels. Like our view is we're about no cookies and no panels. That mobile data, that understanding in a privacy compliant way of that consumer really gives you an understanding of who that consumer is relative to any panel or any cooking basis that you can use.
But haven't the rules changed around mobile and app-based data collection? Has that impacted your business at all?
They have changed, and actually for the better. And the reality is there was a lot of nefarious data selling going on in the space. Yeah. We have not been impacted by it because we've never sold our data. We have always housed our data for the purposes of execution, and we had direct contact with the end consumer. So we've always done that. We've also done a lot of predictive modeling to prevent from crossing the lines of PII. And then separately on the analytics side, there is no constraints in additional data that we get in as long as it's for analytics purposes. It gets nefarious when you're using data that someone doesn't understand you have to then target them in a very non-privacy compliant way. That's where the issue arises. And so we're big proponents of the changes that are happening as relates to the ecosystem, because there's a lot of selling of questionable data, and we've never sold questionable data.
Do you think
we've never sold data, period, sorry.
Yeah, do you think with the changes with Apple, I guess, is the main one there, do you think there was a lot of sort of misinformation around there? Is there any myths that you'd like to sort of clear up?
Absolutely. The first myth is Apple did it for the goodness of the environment. That has nothing to do with what's going on. Apple is building an app download business, and they wanted to affect Facebook's app download business and Instagram's app download and Snap. And if you look at their earnings reports, that really was pointing to that it was really a shot at the app download business. Because the issue for Facebook and Instagram and now is, yeah, you can get that download, now it's costing you more impressions for that same download. So that's where it affected the business, is on the app download side. As it relates to the overall understanding of the consumer should be able to opt in and out. It's value exchange. And at the end of the day, value exchange has been happening for years in mobile. I mean, look at gaming apps. You basically give your data to a gaming company. In exchange, you get a token or a fork or a knife or whatever it is that you're getting. And I think this is the part that somehow has spiraled out of control. Value exchange is important. And the idea was there's a bunch of companies out there that weren't giving value exchange. There was nothing of value they were giving to that consumer. And the consumer's data was being sold to third parties, including to agencies and trading desks that should not have been done. So our view has always been, you have to keep the data in the ecosystem that is protected, privacy compliant, and they have to have the opt-out capabilities to do that. And that's really what we're big believers in.
To illustrate what you guys do, your business is based on selling to buy-side agencies, clients and stuff, and campaigns. You do campaigns. Can you give us an illustration of the sort of how you've enriched a particular campaign with the data that you glean from mobile devices?
Yeah. So for example, if there is a customer that we have who's in the QSR space. And that customer is interested in reaching the right audience as it relates to someone who visits their brand or a competitor's brand, and they want to make sure their CTV spend and their linear spend is more efficient. That's where we come in. This idea of disconnected, fragmented marketplace is real, but it's real because people don't realize you have the power of mobile to connect and validate what you're doing. And that's where we, so in the case of this QSR company, we're able to show the QSR company, here's the people who visit your location 3 times in the last month. Here's where they visited other locations. And by the way, at the same time, these are the shows they're watching. Here is what they're likely to have on their phones. The combination of all these is critical. It's not one view, but our view is it starts with the mobile device and understanding in a privacy compliant way. Opt-ins, making sure you're in any terms and conditions for any data you're getting. Those are critical components. And all this is going to continue to evolve and change. And we believe as long as you're smart about it, you'll be at the forefront of privacy compliance. And that's what we've always been as a company. GDPR, CCPA, every other acronym that's going to come out from legislators in the next few months, we're going to be there. As a small company, we are not Facebook and Google. We can't write a check for $1 billion and it'll be 1 day of revenue. That just doesn't work for us. And I think that's really where the misnotion of privacy and compliance, people don't understand the context of this all. So yeah, I have a lot to say there, obviously.